Listen carefully. Somewhere right now, in a room you cannot see, a decision has already been made about your life. It was not made by your family. It was not made by the people who left you. It was not made by the ones who laughed when you fell and disappeared when you needed them most. It was made by God. And heaven has already moved. Hear this clearly. There is a moment coming, and it is closer than you think, when the people who doubted you will come running back. They will come with soft voices and rehearsed apologies. They will come asking for a seat at your table. They will come begging for a warning, begging for a way out, begging for someone, anyone, to tell them what is coming. And the one they will beg is you. But by then, it will be too late. Not because God is cruel, not because you are bitter, but because everything and every tear, every sleepless night, every moment you sat alone on the floor of your room, wondering if you were forgotten, was preparation. Silent, hidden, holy preparation. And when a chosen one is finally ready, they do not go back and beg people to understand them. They simply grin and say, too late. If you have ever felt this in your spirit, if you have ever sensed that your pain has a purpose, that your loneliness has a language, that your story is bigger than what your eyes can currently see, then this message is not a coincidence. This is a divine appointment. This is heaven speaking directly to you through this screen in this exact moment. So sit with this. Let it sink into your bones. Because what you are about to hear will change the way you see every closed door, every betrayal, every year of silence. You were never forgotten. You were being formed. Keynote 1. The silence before the storm. There is a kind of pain that no one around you understands. It is not the pain of losing something small. It is the pain of being chosen, set apart, while everyone else moves on with their lives, laughing, celebrating, building, and you are left standing in silence, wondering why heaven feels so far away. Listen carefully. That silence was never punishment. That silence was protection. Before God releases a person into their destiny, He hides them. He hides them from the wrong relationships. He hides them from the wrong opportunities. He hides them from people who were only there to slow them down, drain them, or steal what God had already promised. This is not abandonment. This is preparation disguised as loneliness. Think about every person in your life who called you too much, too quiet, too different, too intense. Think about every room you walked into where you felt like an outsider, even among your own family. That was not rejection. That was a sign. Heaven does not build ordinary lives in comfortable places. Heaven builds chosen lives in hidden places. God is saying, I removed you from that room not because you didn't belong there, but because that room was too small for what I am building in you. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to stand out. And standing out always feels like loneliness before it feels like power. Think about every night you cried without telling anyone. Think about every prayer you whispered into the dark, wondering if it was even reaching heaven. Those prayers were heard. Every single one. Nothing was wasted. Not one tear fell to the ground without purpose. Heaven collects the tears of the chosen and turns them into rivers of breakthrough. Hear this clearly. Your breakthrough is not coming despite your pain. Your breakthrough is coming because of how you carried your pain. There is a difference between suffering that destroys a person and suffering that refines a person. The enemy wanted your suffering to make you bitter, isolated, and broken beyond repair. But God took the same suffering and used it to build in you a strength that comfortable people will never have. You were not spared from the fire. You were forged inside of it. Think about Joseph, betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, sold like he was worthless, falsely accused, forgotten in prison for years while other people's lives moved forward. If Joseph had judged his life by his circumstances, he would have believed he was cursed. But God was not absent in that pit. God was not absent in that prison. God was quietly, silently, patiently preparing Joseph for a throne that his brothers could not even imagine. That is your story too. You are not in a pit because God forgot you. You are in a pit because a throne is being prepared, and thrones are never built in comfort. They are built in the dark, in the silence, in the seasons where no one applauds you, no one checks on you, no one even notices what you are carrying. Listen carefully. The people who betrayed you were never meant to walk with you into your next season. Some people are only assigned to your beginning. God removes people so that your ending will not be corrupted by influences that never truly belonged there. This is why it hurt so much when they left. This is why the silence felt unbearable. It wasn't just an ending. It was a divine sorting. God was separating who was real from who was only present for convenience. And once the sorting is complete, you will look back and realize that every person who left made room for who was coming. God is saying, I did not remove them to hurt you. I removed them to protect what I am about to release into your life. There is a war happening around your life that you cannot see with your natural eyes. This is spiritual warfare. It is not always loud. Sometimes it looks like unexplainable exhaustion. Sometimes it looks like sudden isolation. Sometimes it looks like people turning against you for no reason at all. That is not random. That is resistance. And resistance only shows up when something powerful is trying to break through. The enemy does not fight ordinary people. The enemy fights the chosen. He fights the ones who carry destiny, because he knows that once they awaken to who they truly are, nothing will be able to stop them. If your life has felt like a battlefield, that is not a sign that God has left you. That is a sign that heaven sees something in you worth fighting for. Hear this clearly. Every attack against your peace, your mind, your relationships, your finances, your identity. Every single one of those attacks is confirmation that you are carrying something the enemy is afraid of. You were never too sensitive. You were never too dramatic. You were never imagining things. You were discerning a war that others could not see because you were never meant to live an ordinary, unaware life. This is the loneliness of the chosen. It is real, it is heavy, and it is holy. Chosen ones often walk through seasons where even the people closest to them cannot understand what they are going through. Family may misjudge you. Friends may misread your silence as arrogance, when really it is exhaustion from carrying a weight they cannot see. You may feel like you are speaking a language no one around you understands. But listen carefully. This isolation is not the end of your story, it is the classroom of your calling. God does some of his deepest work in isolation. Moses was formed in the wilderness before he ever stood in front of Pharaoh. David was forgotten in the fields with sheep before he ever stood in front of a king. Jesus himself was led into the wilderness before he ever began his ministry. Every great move of God was preceded by a season of hidden preparation. If you feel hidden right now, that is not evidence that you have been forgotten. That is evidence that you are being prepared for something the enemy cannot afford to let you walk into unprepared. God is saying, I am not punishing you with silence. I am protecting your calling with it. There will come a day, and I want you to hear this deeply. There will come a day when the very people who ignored you, doubted you, mocked you, or abandoned you will come looking for you. They will come because they will finally see what God was building the entire time they were absent. They will come needing guidance. They will come needing wisdom. They will come needing the very warning your spirit tried to give them long ago, back when they weren't ready to listen. But by the time they come, you will already be walking in the fullness of what God prepared you for. And though your heart may still carry compassion for them, something in you will have shifted. You will no longer beg for their approval. You will no longer chase their understanding. You will simply nod because you finally understand what all of it was for. This is not about revenge. This is about becoming. It is about transformation before elevation. God does not lift a person into their purpose while they are still bound by bitterness, still desperate for validation from people who were never assigned to stay. Before he elevates you, he transforms you. He removes the anger. He removes the desperation. He removes the version of you that needed everyone's approval to feel worthy. And what remains after that transformation is unstoppable. Hear this clearly. Your current pain is not your final chapter. It is the introduction to a story so powerful that even you will be amazed at how God rewrote what looked broken into something breathtaking. Hold on. Stay faithful in the silence. Keep praying even when heaven feels quiet. Faith during silence is the purest form of faith there is. Anyone can believe when they see results. But it takes a chosen heart to trust God when there is nothing but stillness. That stillness will not last forever. Keynote 2. The moment they come begging. There will come a day when everything changes. Listen carefully. The same people who watched you struggle and said nothing will one day watch you rise and suddenly have everything to say. The same people who disappeared during your storm will reappear the moment they see your sunlight. This is not surprising. This is the pattern of every chosen life throughout history. When you were down, they were silent. When you rise, they will speak. But hear this clearly. Their sudden interest in your life is not always love. Sometimes it is fear. They see the shift happening in you, the calm, the confidence, the peace that no longer depends on their opinion, and it unsettles them. Something in them senses that you know something they do not. They sense that you carry a warning, an answer, a wisdom that was forged in the very fire they refused to walk through with you. This is the moment prophesied in the title of this message. This is the moment they come begging him to warn them. Picture it. Picture the chosen one, standing tall, transformed, radiating a peace that was clearly not born from comfort, but from survival. Picture the very people who abandoned him now surrounding him, whispering urgently, "Please, tell us what's coming. Please, warn us. You always seem to know things before they happened." And picture him, grinning, not out of cruelty, but out of quiet understanding, saying only, "Too late." Not because he refuses to help, not because his heart has turned cold, but because there was a season when his warnings were dismissed, ignored, mocked. There was a time when he tried to speak, and no one wanted to listen. God does not force revelation onto closed ears forever. There comes a point where the window closes, not out of punishment, but because timing is sacred, and some doors only open once. God is saying, "I gave you the words in due season. Those who rejected the season cannot demand access to it later." This is a hard truth, but it is a necessary one. Divine timing is not something we control, it is something we honor. When you are in your season of preparation, some people will not have the eyes to see what God is doing in you. They will criticize your quietness. They will misunderstand your distance. They will call your discipline arrogance and your obedience foolishness. But once your season of elevation begins, the very things they mocked become the things they desperately want to understand. Listen carefully. This is why it is so important not to shrink yourself trying to be understood by people who were never meant to walk with you into your next chapter. Your assignment was never to convince everyone. Your assignment was to obey God, even when it isolated you, even when it cost you relationships, even when it made you the outsider at every table. Because the very obedience that isolated you is the same obedience that will elevate you. Think about every warning your spirit gave you about certain people, certain decisions, certain paths, warnings you tried to share but were brushed off as paranoia or negativity. Those warnings were not random thoughts. They were discernment. They were the Holy Spirit speaking through you, trying to protect people who were not ready to receive protection. God is saying, "I gave you eyes to see what others could not. Do not carry guilt for the doors they refuse to walk through. You are not responsible for the outcomes of people who ignored the voice of God speaking through you. You planted the seed. What they did with it was between them and heaven. This truth will set you free from a heavy burden many chosen ones carry. The burden of feeling responsible for saving everyone, warning everyone, fixing everyone, even the people who never valued your voice in the first place. Release that burden today. It was never yours to carry. Hear this clearly. Breakthrough after pain does not mean the pain disappears from your memory. It means the pain no longer controls your identity. You will remember the betrayal, but it will no longer define you. You will remember the loneliness, but it will no longer break you. You will remember every person who walked away, but you will no longer chase them. This is what victory after endurance looks like. It is not loud. It is not petty. It is not vengeful. It is calm. It is quiet strength. It is standing in a room full of people who once doubted you and feeling nothing but peace, because you know who prepared you, and you know the road it took to get here. There is a transformation happening in you right now, even as you listen to these words. Something in your spirit is awakening. You are beginning to recognize that the isolation was never rejection. The silence was never abandonment. The delay was never denial. It was divine timing working exactly as it was designed to work, preparing you for a moment your old self could not have survived. God does not rush chosen ones into their purpose. He matures them first. He strips away the need for approval. He strips away the fear of being misunderstood. He strips away the desperation to be chosen by people, because he is preparing you to walk fully in the truth that you were already chosen by him. Listen carefully. This is why fake people cannot survive around a chosen life for long. God removes them not out of cruelty, but out of protection. He knows that counterfeit relationships cannot walk beside authentic destiny. So he allows the shaking. He allows the sorting. He allows the uncomfortable seasons where people who once seemed permanent suddenly disappear. Do not chase what God is removing. Let it go. What is meant to remain in your life will remain without struggle, without manipulation, without begging. Anything you have to force to stay was never assigned to your future. Hear this clearly. God is saying, I am not just changing your circumstances, I am changing you. And once you are changed, you will not fit back into the old rooms, old relationships, or old versions of your life. That is not loss. That is elevation. This is the moment of transformation before elevation. Before God lifts you into the fullness of your purpose, he completes the inner work. He heals the wounds that would have sabotaged you if you had been elevated too early. He removes the bitterness that would have poisoned your success. He builds in you a resilience that cannot be shaken by opinions, rejection, or betrayal. And once that transformation is complete, elevation is inevitable. Nothing can hold back a person who has been fully prepared by God. Not jealousy, not sabotage, not the people who tried to write you off, not the years that felt wasted. Every piece of your story will click into place, and you will finally understand why the road had to look exactly the way it did. Picture your future for a moment. Picture yourself standing in a place of peace, purpose, and quiet power. Picture the people who once underestimated you, now watching from a distance, unsure of how to approach the version of you that finally walked into who you were always meant to be. You do not owe them your former self. You do not owe them access to gifts they once dismissed. You do not owe them warnings for storms they refused to prepare for when the sky was clear and you were trying to tell them. Sometimes the most powerful thing a chosen person can do is smile gently at the ones who doubted them and simply let their peace speak for itself. Too late is not a phrase of bitterness, it is a phrase of boundaries. It is a declaration that says, I honored my season even when no one else did. I will not abandon my growth to rescue those who abandoned me in my struggle. Listen carefully. This message was not random. If you have made it this far, God is confirming something in your spirit right now. He is saying that your season of hidden preparation is coming to an end. He is saying that the silence you have endured was never wasted. He is saying that everything, every tear, every betrayal, every lonely night was building toward a moment of undeniable breakthrough. You are not who they think you are. You are not who your past said you were. You are chosen. You are prepared. You are being positioned for a level of peace, purpose, and power that the people who left you could never have handled beside you. Hold on to your faith, even in this final stretch. The enemy always intensifies his attacks right before a breakthrough, because he knows what is coming even before you fully see it. Do not quit now. Do not shrink now. Do not go back to old rooms, old relationships, or old versions of yourself now. You are almost there. Closing. Hear this clearly, one final time. You were never forgotten. You were never abandoned. You were never too much. You were chosen, hidden, refined, and prepared for a purpose that only heaven could design. The isolation was never punishment. The delay was never denial. The pain was never pointless. Everything you have walked through has been building toward this exact moment. The moment you finally stop begging for understanding from people who were never meant to walk with you into your future and start walking boldly into everything God has already prepared for you. Your breakthrough is not far away. Your season of silence is closing. Your elevation is coming. If these words touched something deep in your spirit, if you feel that quiet, undeniable confirmation rising in your heart right now, then comment the word chosen below. Let heaven and this community witness your declaration. Strengthen your faith today. Trust God's timing, even in the waiting, even in the silence, even when nothing around you makes sense. His timing has never once failed you, and it will not fail you now. Subscribe, so you never miss the next message God has prepared to speak directly into your life. You were chosen before the foundation of the world. Walk like it.